Your favorite fat boys.
Man, I'm on the truck, bitch.
What's up, world? It's your favorite fat boy, Jerron.
Stefan, aka Mayhem, aka your very next president, aka the cops already assassinated me.
And welcome to episode, what is this, episode 35 now?
35.
Episode 35 woo, woo, of the podcast, Favorite Fat Boys podcast.
We're gonna keep doing the count every time we do a new episode.
I mean, I'm impressed with us and us having that, 35 episodes. So you didn't think we would make it.
I never said we would or we wouldn't.
You right. I'm sorry, but I need to put that bad voodoo on you. Bad juju on you.
Thank you.
I take it back. No, I mean, I think it's a small milestone. Not that we had episode 35, but just the fact that we've been going over a year now and just being consistent. So
right.
I look at that as a mile. I would say, I guess, a small milestone. So I'm happy. You happy?
I'm never happy.
Are you content with us, hitting 35?
Sure.
Okay, I go with that. So as you can see, we still using the plexiglass here. Put your hand up like we in prison.
That sends the wrong message.
Oh, we never put your hand up like we in prison then. So, Stefan here just made a trip to Georgia. I don't know why you did that.
Only for a day. But things be crazy. So as always, we take all the precautions necessary.
Got our mask, got plexiglass, and got hand sanitizer, which I left in the car.
And, I bleach down all of the equipment before we partake in these episodes.
And I wash my hands and I wash my ass. So
all of the safety measures are being followed.
So last episode, we had our very first guest, Marvin by Nature. His Instagram name is Do It Marvin. And, we had him on here. We talked about him working as an actor and in Atlanta, and also, making music as well. How Atlanta has influenced his sound, and we look forward to do as with his music career. And I want to thank Marvin again for coming. I really do appreciate it, him being on, and I had a lot of fun doing that. So I'm going to have more people that are doing something that I find interesting, and I want to have a conversation as to what they are doing and how they go about it. So we have another guest coming on in September sometime soon. So look out for that. That should be a good one as well. Stefan, what you think about the interview? Well, I guess, period.
It was long. It took a lot of effort to edit it down into a nice compact version that people would want to sit and watch. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, the whole hour and 15 minutes was interesting, but it was an hour and 15 minutes.
True. We don't have an hour 15 audience.
Right.
So we try to make these episodes, especially when it's me and Stefan, between 30 and 35.
Yeah, 30 to 35 minutes.
So we were thinking with a guest probably 45, maybe 50 at best. So it depends on what we're talking about that, will allow that conversation to, to carry on like that. So you have any feedback for me? Was I a good interviewer in person? What's the term for that?
Interviewer.
There you go. Was I a good interviewer?
Perfectly fine. The questions were delineated ahead of time, so people had an opportunity to study them and come up with some interesting things to say. Like I said, it wasn't boring, but it was definitely long.
One for me.
And, just a note to that. Got to know how to move along.
Well, that's what you're here for.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, I'm setting them up. I need you to help me out with the moving along part.
Speaking of moving along,
there we go. Let's see what's on the docket today. Some sad news over the weekend has occurred. Chadwick Boseman, the actor who played most known for playing Black Panther, passed away Friday night.
Colon cancer.
He was battling colon cancer for the past 4 years since he was diagnosed in 2016. Apparently, anybody he's worked with in the last few years didn't know he was battling cancer, didn't know he was sick. He would go to work, do his job, and And I guess when he had treatment, he did his treatment. But nobody knew about it. And it was a shock to a lot of people. Definitely shock. When I heard the news, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Some of my condolences to his family and friends. It was very, very sad. What you even think about it, Stefan? How did it hit you?
We weren't very well acquainted.
Well, we know I wasn't acquainted with him either.
So it didn't really hit me hard. I did wonder what they would do with Black Panther 2, but you know what? That's just a bit of selfishness on my part from enjoying the first movie.
Well, no, I mean, I feel you on that because I was thinking the same thing. Like, what are you going to do with the sequel to the movie? But it doesn't come out to 2022,
right?
So they have a lot of time to fill that role. And I was reading on the Twitterverse, some people were saying that they shouldn't recast that role. Other people were saying, go ahead and recast the role. It's kind of the same as James Bond, Batman.
The only difference is that I don't want to go too deep in the weeds with this, but Marvel has created a continuity with their characters, so them recasting might not work. But then again, they did it with James Rhodes and Iron Man.
Yeah, I mean, you recast the role, so I mean, the history is already there. So, but we'll see what happens. But his untimely death was definitely a shock to a lot of people. So, we lost it seemed like a true superhero over the weekend. So, very sad. And then also with that being said, there was another police shooting that happened earlier that week with Jacob Blake. You seen that video, right?
Yeah, I've seen the video.
So in that video of Jacob Blake being shot, you don't see in that video, but he was breaking up a fight between two women. When the police arrived, he's walking away from the fight, going back to his car, or his truck rather. Going back to his truck, the police officers are following him. You don't know what they're saying because there's no audio to that. Going to his truck, and when he got to his truck, they say he's reaching for a knife or something of some sorts, and the cops just unloaded 7 shots in his back.
Yeah, he was grabbing at his shirt trying to pull him out the car, and then he just started shooting at him. And he needed to shoot him 7 times.
Yeah, that's...
this was in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
You kind of become numb to these shootings to a certain extent. Like, nothing surprises me anymore. Like, the fact that this man was breaking up a fight and he got shot. And then I seen reports that say that he was committing some crime himself.
Well,
he got called for like some kind of...
No. Apparently he had some warrants for like failure to appear.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that was part of the reason why he didn't want to be arrested by cops.
Okay.
But based off of the eyewitness and the person who took the video, they heard the police officer say, drop the knife. Mm-hmm. And at one point he was tased. Okay. And so he was going back to his car and they assumed that he was going to get a gun. Now, many people who watch this video, you'll see plenty of people who will say, well, he should have followed police orders. But the last time I checked, and maybe you could try this as well, if you're a teenager, you tell your son or daughter to do something and they don't, shoot them in the back 7 times and see how that pans out. Because the last time I checked, not complying with police orders was not an order of execution.
Exactly. He had his 3 sons in the car as well, in the truck. I'm just thinking that had to be the most frightening thing a child could have seen their father getting shot several times. The sound, the impact, whatever else comes with that. That had to be terrifying for them to see.
It's with the same situation like with Philando Castile. When a police officer feels like their life being threatened, they don't care about anybody else that's around the vicinity. The trauma that they're going to be experiencing for the rest of their life after having to witness that.
Right, because them being scared, them risking, being terrified of their life justifies everything.
And the one thing I know, if police officers felt that he was a threat, there were 3 officers there. Mm-hmm. You're telling me 3 officers couldn't bring this man down if they felt that he was this big of a threat? They decided that 7 shots, lethal force, was the necessary step to stop whatever it was they perceived him to be doing. But the fact of the matter is they had 3 officers. I would assume they were capable, but seeing as how it ended up, they probably weren't very capable.
No, it's like you don't have. It's like you can't have. You seem like you don't have. I don't say you, but it just goes to show you that the reason we don't have any faith in the police is because we see videos like this, and if we don't see them using their best judgment, it's just, oh, I'm going to shoot and use lethal force because that's all I know.
I mean, when all you have is a hammer, everything becomes a nail.
And he didn't die, thank goodness, but he is paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah, doctors don't know if it's going to be permanent or not, but at this present point in time, he is paralyzed from the waist down.
He was handcuffed to his bed too, and I think they finally have him unhandcuffed after a while, and the charges were.
I mean, it's not like he was going to run away.
That's not even a joke. Like it is the God honest truth. So, but they did take the handcuffs off of him. They did I think they believe they dropped those charges that they were probably going to file against him.
Yeah, and with the current climate, this shooting has sparked protests and riots as per the norm.
Yeah.
For these things that are constantly occurring.
Yeah, they burned down a building up there. I forgot it was maybe a corrections building or something.
Yeah, and also with the riots that occurred, another incident directly after the Jacob Blake shooting occurred, which was
this was named Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old who shot two people. And
shot three people.
Shot three people, killed two.
Yeah, two died
at the Kenosha protest, and he was walking around with a AR-15. And he was signaling or using hand signals with the police, and the police did nothing. They didn't stop him. About a fun fact: his mother drove him, I believe, from Illinois to
Wisconsin.
Yeah,
he was
protest.
He was part of a militia that went up there to protect people's property from the rioters. So his parents agreed with his line of logic, and they got into a car, took him from the state that he lived in to another state so that he could protect other people's property that wasn't his.
It ain't the stupidest thing. So that sounds like the fact that he shot and killed he shot three people. That sounds like it's almost premeditated murder. Now,
I mean, based off the video, some people would, his defense is claiming that it was self-defense, and you can look at it like it was self-defense. But the fact of the matter is why was he even there?
Yeah, he really had no business being there.
Said he was seriously a person that had been radicalized that, I got to stop these people from destroying this city. So he took his 17-year-old self. One, he shouldn't have had the weapon as a 17-year-old. Cross state lines. Two, should have never been able to cross state lines with said weapon. Both things illegal.
Right.
So that he could defend property that he had absolutely nothing to do with. And in his mind, this felt like a good idea. And not only did he feel like this was a good idea, his parents were okay with it as well. So this has to tell you about the mindset of all of the people involved in the situation.
Yeah, it's very sick.
And now we have two people dead and another person seriously injured.
Yeah, I seen one of the names and I can't think of the top of my head. But apparently one of the people that he killed, they were trying to stop. He was trying to stop him from committing more shootings.
Yeah, because you have a situation where somebody's shooting and the crowd rushed them. Mm-hmm. And so, I'll be blatantly honest with you and in our audience. This is why I do not want to protest, because I am terrified of something like this happening, and I'm pretty sure there are people that feel the same. Like, you want to go and protest, you want to do your part and everything like that, and there are a lot of people want to peacefully protest, but then you have a fool like this who shows up with an automatic weapon and wants to either shoot in the crowd or shoot somebody for some odd reason. And this is what could happen. And it doesn't have to be like this. And the fact that he's coming from another state to protect, property, it's like, bro, stay your ass home. This has nothing to do with you. This is not your fight. This is nothing. It's none of your business to be here. Why? I mean, he felt like it was his fight. It was his duty as a person who owned a weapon, as a person who believed in his country and protecting his country, to go to the state and stop these thugs and these rioters from destroying the America that we have created.
Well, they locked his ass up and he's been charged with murder. So I hope he gets the book thrown at him.
Like I said, at this point in time, his defense are claiming self-defense in his act of shooting the 3 victims. But we'll see how that pans out.
I mean, we wait for a lot of these convictions to pan out. Since we talking about convictions, let's run down George Floyd. So the officer that killed George Floyd with his knee in his neck, he's still held captive, right? He's still held in jail. So he hasn't been released, thank goodness. But the other officers involved, they've been released on bond.
Yeah.
And there's a video floating around of one of the officers. I think he was in, I want to say Costco's maybe, and somebody recognized him, and they were like it's like, I can't believe you're out here and about shopping and things like that. And how she approached him was, "Is it really you? Are you really him?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "How can you be out here and out and about? You killed that man." And he's kind of just like, "Look, I just want to get myself and get out of here." You know, it was just you know, I don't say it was weird to see a cop who was accused of murder seen doing normal things in a sense, but they got you know, they're gonna do. They're people too, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even an unfortunate thing. That's just the nature of it. That regardless of how the court of public opinion might view them or how you view them yourself, they are still people.
Right. So they
still have needs that need to be fulfilled.
Exactly. So, and let's see, even the people convicted in the Ahmaud Arbery case.
Now, I don't know if they were convicted. They've been charged.
But
they have not been convicted.
But they're still being held. So they're not released on bond. So this is just kind of we just going over like those who are locked up and not locked up still. So they're still locked up, and then the guy who recorded everything, they've pressed charges on him.
Yes.
So, because I've always thought he was in, you know, he got kind of too quickly, you know, and they were kind of like, oh no, he didn't have anything to do with it, but they looked at his role in that.
Right.
He had a bigger role than what he said he did.
Right.
And let's see, of course, Breonna Taylor. Out of the 3 officers, they fired one officer. But they haven't brought any charges to those 3 officers since.
And the fact of the matter is, I don't see them doing it. And I don't see them facing any kind of jail time for it. Because if you look at the entirety of the situation, one, they had a warrant that was signed off by a judge,
right,
which was a no-knock warrant, so they don't have to announce themselves to enter the home. 2, they were fired upon and they fired back.
Right.
So them shooting would be justified in the court of law. So I don't see anything happening to them. Just because everything, the way it occurred, was fucked up, but was on the books. Yeah. Now, granted, how they wrote the report afterwards, definitely super fucked up. But if you look at the situation, the warrant that they had was a good warrant. It was signed off by a judge, which gave them the right to just bust into a home. And when they were fired upon and they fired back. So all of that would be seen as justified. So I don't see anything happening to them, even though it's fucked up.
Very fucked up. And we point out that just before when not when it first happened, but when it was gaining national attention, if they were to convict the officers, then they would have to go down. Through the entire chain. The whole entire chain of the judge signed off and the police commissioner and so on and so forth, and you know, the chain of command. And it doesn't. And this happened in what, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah. You're gonna have a lot of blood on somebody's hands, on a lot of people's hands because of this, and you have to get rid of so many people, and they're not going to do it. The DA and the DA for that state is a black guy. He's gotten married. He celebrated his engagement, something like that. I think he celebrated his engagement. He still spoke at the RNC. Nothing about bringing them to justice. He didn't say too much about it, really.
Oh, of course not.
So, unfortunately, this black man who they voted for in that role doesn't seem like he's going to carry anything out. And not to say that because he's black, he should do, Breonna Taylor a favor in a sense.
I mean, but he's a very outspoken Republican, so that kind of leans towards not doing anything to police officers. So, but again, even if this were to go to trial, I could see based off of all of the evidence present that they wouldn't be convicted of anything. Again,
I agree with you. I feel like because it's been like almost 180 days or something like that. They not bringing these officers to justice
or bringing any charges. So,
and the saddest thing about it is that her name's going to just be gone with the wind in a sense, and she'll just be another case, another person that got caught by the system in a sense. And then there's Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, who else? Rashad Brooks. You familiar with that one?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
So Rashad Brooks, you Google it, I'll make sure I got my facts all right here. He was killed by officers in Atlanta, Georgia, at a Wendy's.
Oh, okay, yeah, I do recall that situation.
So he was sleeping in his car. The one of the cashiers at Wendy's called the police. I guess they believe he might have been drunk or something like that. And the cops came. They were asking him a couple of questions. I don't know if this is a sobriety test or not. But everything was kind of going smooth until they wanted to handcuff him, and then all hell broke loose. I think they tased him, and that didn't work, and then they ended up shooting him, and they ended up killing him. And the officer that did shoot him, he was fired. But I don't think he's been brought on charges yet.
So yeah, apparently he was attempting to take the officer's taser from him.
Okay.
And so they shot him. He was, I do recall the case. He was drunk in like the Wendy's drive-thru. They woke him up. He parked his car in their parking lot and went to sleep. But that wasn't good enough. So he was going to walk across the street to go to his sister's house, but that wasn't good enough for them either. And that's when the altercation occurred. I guess the cop tried to tase him. He tried to take the taser from the cops, and then they shot him for reaching for their weapon.
So my question to anybody listening and to you, Stefan, in these 5. In these 5 instances alone in 2020, we protested peacefully. There have been riots. There has been firing of some officers. There have been charges for some. When is enough going to be enough? When we as black people finally just snap and burn this motherfucker to the ground?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that the idea of the American dream and what that's supposed to represent, black people as a whole believe in the dream and they want the dream to be real. That's why you don't see just mass black people just burning everything and just killing all the whiteys. Mm-hmm. Because the idea of the American dream and what that's supposed to represent, black people as a whole believe in the dream and they want it. They haven't been fighting for control. They've been fighting for equality. That's the thing that's been going on for a very long time. Just the fight for equality, the fight to be treated as people, be treated equal to, the ruling class. Mm-hmm. So I don't see a situation where they're just going to burn it all to the ground because of the fact that you do believe in what it's supposed to represent.
Okay.
But as you can see, people are fed up with the situations that keep occurring because that's why protests are still ongoing. That's why riots continue to happen because people are fed up.
Right. But the protesting is just one part of it. I don't say one part of it, but it's like the protesting is not doing enough. And I'm not saying that the protesting in a sense should, but I feel like something.
Well, we know that protests don't do everything.
Yeah.
There was plenty of protests. There was marches on Washington. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of peaceful protests during the civil rights movement. They took a step in the right direction, but it wasn't completely over the hump. And it's going to be the same thing here. What you want to see is that there is change that happens because of these actions. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So basically what you want to see is that people are taking notice that you're fed up and they put things in place to fix the issue. Hopefully within the next few years, we'll see these things take effect.
Which has led to, the NBA boycotting some games due to the Jacob Blake shooting. And that's just also one part. That's one small part of it. I didn't expect them to,
right,
to boycott.
take that, that deep of a stance.
Yeah, to boycott any games at all. Because of course, when the coronavirus hit and a lot of players were testing positive, they shut everything down.
Right.
So and then they worked really hard to get the NBA season back going again. But it goes to show you that the athletes, they feel some kind of way about it, and they're not looking to play just to play, but they want to make an impact as well.
Right.
So I was impressed by that, and hopefully that puts brings some awareness and let America know that just because you get millions of dollars doesn't mean that you are not removed from feeling the hurt of your people.
Right.
So what else we got here? And of course, was it this week they had the last 2 weeks they had the DNC and RNC conventions here for the presidential candidates.
Yeah.
Special shit there.
The DNC convention was unconventional in the sense of how they did it. They wanted to show that the Democratic Party is being more progressive and is bringing in new blood. So they had a lot of the new blood speaking. Mm-hmm. The RNC, on the other hand, was complete batshit insanity. First and foremost, half of the speakers all had the last name Trump. If that doesn't speak volumes about the current administration, nothing else does.
Because it was his daughter that spoke?
His daughter, his sons, his wife, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, his entire family. So half of the speakers had the last name Trump. That should speak volumes to how problematic the current administration is.
Yeah, because he hasn't rubbed he's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in his own party.
Oh yeah, I mean, granted, the Republican Party, this is the amalgamation of what the Republican Party was supposed to be, because Trump is Trump, but he's been enabled by the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. So when you watch the convention, first and foremost, and seeing all of these people spew all of these lies, and especially how they try to frame it like he did such an amazing job with coronavirus, when there's almost 200,000 people dead. Such an amazing job.
Yeah, almost 200,000 dead.
Such an amazing job.
And how many people have been affected around the world? Like 1 million?
So yeah, in America, I think we've had 5 million. I'll get the exact numbers.
I mean, he hasn't handled coronavirus well, because from what I've seen and read, they knew about this. Well, I think it's late as November, early December.
Well, that's when there were signs of it. They didn't really know about it, but they did have official reports since January of this year. Okay. And they just never acted on it.
Right. And, one thing the Obama administration did is that when they got wind of something that could possibly happen like this, before it spread, they acted on it. So there wouldn't be a pandemic.
Yeah, they had a pandemic response team, a pandemic playbook. These are things that people know that Trump just completely dismantled, because a lot of it was Obama did it, fuck that stuff. Because if the black man did it, fuck that stuff. Having watched a few speeches for the RNC that I watched, it was really fucking odd.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch nobody's speech from either party. I'm probably going to vote Democrat just because of the fact I don't want Trump in for another 4 years. And my stance on this is that when he first ran in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, I saw who both options were, or whoever the options were at that time. I looked at like, okay, Hillary has experience being a political. What's the word?
She's a politician.
She has experience being a politician, whereas Trump doesn't have any experience being a politician.
He doesn't have much experience being a businessman with all of the failed businesses that he has.
Exactly. So I'm like, I just don't see what his appeal was.
And I will say that I was wrong about Trump, because I said, because he's done before, run for presidency just so he can get some free publicity. I was like, you know what? The Republicans would never give that man a nomination. Then he got the nomination. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just shut my mouth from now on. Because I just assumed that the Republicans, even if as shitty as they had been getting up to that point, had at least a few more morals than to give the nomination to him. But then once he got the nomination, they became the president, and they just completely shifted to backing this crazy fucker so that they could continue to gain more and more wealth and more power. As, yeah, you know what? At no point in time can you call yourselves the moral party. And watching the RNC, some of the speeches that I watched prove that. Because again, they were batshit insane. They were full of lies. And they were so weird. Like, they had a few minority speakers because the Republicans have an image of not being for minorities. Because the idea of being a minority or being a person is that you're going to vote for the party that have your best interest. And if that party doesn't have your best interest, you don't vote for them. So they had a few minority speakers, and they were talking about, America's not racist, but then give examples of the racism that they experience in America. Wait a minute, but if America's not racist, how do you have these examples of racism?
It makes my head hurt.
Yeah, it was making my head hurt too.
You saw the speech where Herschel Walker was talking, right? The former football player.
Yeah.
And he's like, Trump has been my best friend for the past 37 years. He can't be racist because we're friends. And it's like,
I got a black friend card. Yeah. So again, like I said,
somebody made a good point. They said that Herschel Walker, he took too many hits to the head. They said he wore a
CTE, goddamn.
He wore the soft leather helmets when he played.
CTE, goddamn.
And that's what and the Trump took advantage of him. And I do believe that Trump is paying some black people to talk. He got to be.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but no, you know what? There are, regardless of what the amount of melanin that you have in your skin is, people have different ideologies.
This is true. We just because we black doesn't mean that we all have to sit together.
We're not a monolith.
Was that?
We are not a monolith.
Right.
We are not just one structure.
Right. Black people, we're going to disagree on certain things, but I do not see where he has, as he put himself, he's done the most for any black people. He's done the most for any black person. Any president since Abraham Lincoln.
Even though, Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act into law. But whatever, what, Trump.
I just want black people to do two things. I want y'all niggas to stop saying that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Do your research. He didn't free the slaves for convenience. And
I mean, but granted, the Emancipation Proclamation did set the groundwork for freeing the slaves.
It did, but I need y'all niggas to read up on it and stop saying that Abraham Lincoln, he freed the slaves, the best president ever. No, read about that.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he did not like slavery, but he did not like blacks.
So, message. What's another thing we said? That's science. We need a message.
That's history.
That's history. There we go. And then stop saying that Bill Clinton was our first black president because he
most certainly was not.
He played the saxophone and he smoked some goddamn weed and got some head in the Oval Office. Bill Clinton's the goddamn reason why a lot of y'all aunts and uncles and cousins and such and so forth got locked up for little
yeah, his 90s crime bill did that. It was based off of the Reagan and the Nixon's war on crime, which intentionally targeted black people.
Exactly.
So
and the one thing I would say is one thing I will give credit to Hillary and Kamala Harris is that they were both part of that plan, or not part of that plan, but they were pushing that bill. I think even Biden pushed that bill too.
But it was Biden's framework.
Right. So they are trying to correct their mistakes because prison reform needs to happen. A lot of people don't like Kamala Harris. A lot of people feel a certain way about Joe Biden. But I feel like they are trying to correct a lot of the mistakes they made back in the 90s because they see the error of their ways. So as much as people, may not like them, we got to give them a chance to do something right.
I mean, the thing about Biden is that the reason that Biden is the front runner and, the presidential nomination is because he's the moderate Democrat that Republicans can get behind. And that's what they want. They want to be able to at least get Republicans behind them because they know Democrats aren't voting for Trump. Any sane person shouldn't vote for Trump. I emphasize this again. Any sane person shouldn't vote for Trump. Insane, do whatever the fuck you want.
Put a box here. Sane person, flashing neon lights.
Shouldn't vote for Trump, but Biden is the person who is more moderate that Republicans could get behind. Because honestly, a lot of Biden's ideas would be the Republican ideas in most other countries. It's just that we have a weird idea what the left and what socialism is. So, like I said, after watching the DNC and the RNC conventions, the DNCs was fine, even if it was just a little weird and unconventional with the way they, the Zoom type meetings that they did.
Right.
But the RNC, completely batshit insane.
Yeah, the last part of it was, you won't be safe in Biden's America.
Even though they show images of Trump's America to say it.
So like, so the subject's on fire. That's happening right now, but that's going to happen in Biden's America too. So it was fucked either way.
It would be worse in Biden's America. And as far as the coronavirus cases go, there are almost 6 million infected in the United States. If y'all don't.
Man, fuck this. Put mask on, president. Y'all niggas don't put y'all mask on, wash your hands.
Hey, now, granted, now you got to think about it. The law averages in the law are large numbers. It may be 6 million, but there's 350 million Americans, so it's not a lot.
Remember that movie Head of State with Bernie Mac and Chris Rock?
Yeah.
Remember that scene when Bernie Mac got the train and started slapping people? That's what I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna start with that mask on. Just and you get another. The one thing I want to add on before we close out, I think one of the best things to come out during this time of Trump being president is Trevor Noah and his coverage of President Trump.
The Daily Show?
The Daily Show, yes. And the reason why I say that because when he was the new host of The Daily Show, I think maybe like a year or two before Trump got elected as president. But since like day one, he's been on his ass. His point of views have been, he hit him on the head. His imitation of Trump has been funny as hell. And I just really think that that's probably like an unnoticed part. It goes unnoticed that his commentary performance and his coverage of the president over the last few years.
Right.
And if you follow Trevor Noah, he's very funny. I think he's done a great job with hosting the Daily Show. Being the new replacement for Jon Stewart.
I'm in complete agreement there.
So. And I look forward to see what he has to say about any and everything Trump related. Thank you, Trevor Noah.
All right, well, I think that was all of the topics that we were supposed to discuss today.
So, in closing, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. And hopefully Jacob Blake has a speedy recovery. By him surviving this attack, do you think that the outcome's going to be different? You think they will press charges on that officer, or?
I mean, they'll continue to review it, and it'll be dragged out as long as it can be. But the fact of the matter is, everything about that entire situation was just bad policing. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be some consequence for the bad policing.
So, I think 2021 is going to bring in. Even end of this year, there's going to be a lot of, defund the police, better train the police. It should be as loud as possible because something has to change with the way these police handle all these situations.
Right.
Say her name, Breonna Taylor. Justice for Ahmaud Arbery, justice for George Floyd, and justice for Rashad Brooks. I will continue to post any and everything related to those stories on my Instagram. I don't have a large following, and I'm not doing this to gain a large following. But all these stories that's happened, I look at it as if it could be me, it could be Stefan, it could be somebody I know, and that terrifies me. So I'm gonna bring as much awareness as I can. Hopefully, nobody I know and I care about, none of my loved ones, don't or won't have to go through any of this because. I feel for those people, in these tragic situations. Be safe out there. You protesting. Be safe. And I think that's it.
And if you're riding, give me a TV.
We need some new mics.
These mics are perfectly fine.
We don't need new mics. Buy one. I don't want some new mics.
So that's the show. And as always, check us out on YouTube. Google Music Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes.
And subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out our latest episode of I Hate the Internet. And also go back to our episode where we interviewed Marvin by Nature. It's a good one.
That's the show. Peace out.
Peace.